What's going on, Falcon fan? This is Warakundo coming back at you with another video. So today, guess what, guys? We are 24 days away from the NFL draft in 2024, right? It's April Fool's Day. No jokes have been made um, so far today, so everything is good. Um, and the news across the football, it's been kind of quiet to start. Of course, everybody's pretty much watching the um the NCAA tournament tonight. Some pretty good games going on, exciting. Probably the most exciting, from a women's sports perspective in a long time. So I hope we have two good games to watch tonight on that. However, we're still going to talk Falcons tonight. We're going to talk about impact players for this Falcons team in 2024. We're going to probably touch on some new guys that just came in into the fold, and we're going to talk about some other guys that really need to show something this year. Um, some guys that's probably on the last year of their contracts as well. So definitely going to talk about some guys that definitely can be some impact players for this team. I continually say that this team is definitely incomplete. Atlanta Falcons still got the draft to go through, add some more pieces to fill some of those holes. But at the same time, you know, um, we got guys that's already on this team that's really is capable of doing some good things to help this team get to their overall goal. And for me, just to state it, the overall goal for me this year for Atlanta Falcons is just to get to the playoffs. We need to get back to some kind of winning culture. Um, Not 100% sure, going with a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinators. So we'll be shooting for the skies. And I mean, we should. I mean, because that's what the ultimate goal should be, trying to win the Super Bowl. But at the same time, you want to go in steps. And I think the first step the Atlanta Falcons need to make is just start winning games. To see, can we get back into the postseason, to try to create some kind of winning culture with this team. Raheem Morris, pretty much that should be his charge this year. Definitely was the charge, to start the season last year, but it just did not get done. Hopefully, we could see different fortunes this year, and that should be what we try to strive for this year. So, guys, with that being said, before we get into these impact players for today, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here that talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, guys, we're going to get right into some of my impact players for today. Uh, Hold on just a minute before we get started. Don't go nowhere. Don't change the channel. Ah, sorry about that. Back at it. So, like I said, guys, we're going to get right into impact players, and I'm going to do it sort of like what I do during the regular seasons when I do the keys to victory. Go offense, but defense, and then I'm gonna go special teams. So when I talk about impact players, I'm gonna talk about the offensive side of the ball, then go to the defensive side of the ball, and then the special teams, especially with the new kickoff um, that they just put in place, the hybrid kickoff that they just instituted for this season. So we're definitely going to talk about that as well, and how special teams, in my opinion, can really play a factor in this season as well. So let's get into it. First of all, our offensive breakout players. So you think about offensive breakout players, and I know a lot of you guys is going to go to the mainstay guys, right? The B. John Robinsons, the Kyle Pitts, the Drake Londons. That goes without saying. 100% those guys definitely got to have great seasons. Um, all guys, top 10 picks. So you expect those guys to do what they do, especially the fact that um, the Atlanta Falcons finally when they got a signal caller that will should be able to give them the ball. So you like to see that. So I definitely like the fact that you know that they got a signal caller finally for these for these guys. But for me, when I talk about breakout players, it's certain guys that, in my opinion, that they really needs to have good seasons this year for the Atlanta Falcons to be successful. And I will start up front first. And first off, we're going to start with Caleb McGarry. Caleb McGarry is definitely a guy who signed a pretty, decent contract with the Atlanta Falcons last year to come back to keep that offense um, aligned intact, be beside his buddy Chris Lindstrom. So we definitely was able to see that. But Caleb McGarry needs to have a really good season this year. Caleb McGarry definitely struggles in pass protection. He's a great, excellent run blocker. He loves to get off the ball and push guys around. He's a big dude, but in pass protection, that's where he struggles. So he definitely need to have one of his best seasons, especially, Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles injury, a guy who's want to stay in the pocket, who's going to utilize his pocket presence, who's going to step up in the pocket and things like that. So you want to be able to see um, Caleb McGarry have a good season. So he has to have one of these breakout seasons for us. Um, and Atlanta Falcons definitely could, think about considering, you know, going into the draft and actually picking a, a offensive tackle as well to come in. One of my mock drafts, the last mock draft I did, I actually had the Atlanta Falcons picking an offensive tackle. So that could definitely be something they could do. But, you know, if they want to be able to, fill other holes and gaps with that draft pick, they need to be able to do that as well. So that's one of the things we need to think about and consider that Caleb McGarry is my first guy across the offensive line that really needs to have a breakout year. Next guy, staying with the offensive line, in my opinion, um, it needs to be Drew Dalman, right? Drew Dalman is going into his year. This is a contract season for Drew Dalman. That's why you could definitely see the Atlanta Falcons think about and consider about actually going out and getting another guy as well. To fill that center position. They brought back Ryan Newsel, is one guy that they brought back. So you can see that as well. But at the end of the day, Drew Dalman is another guy who's really, really good. If you looked at what he was able to do at Stanford, he's really smart, be able to get out the ball, able to get to the second level and things like that. But in his pass protection, at the same, just like the other time, the pass protection is a thing that he needs to work on. So that's something that he really needs to consider. And I think for being from a pass protection standpoint, Drew Dalman need to work on that. So on the offensive line, two guys that really need to have a breakout season, in my opinion. This offensive line is really good, right? So, we're nitpicking here, but for the Atlanta Falcons to have the kind of season we want to have, I think a guy like Drew Dalman and I think a guy like Caleb McGarry need to have pretty good seasons for this Atlanta Falcons team to be good. I'm not really too concerned about, believe it or not, the second year player Matthew Bergeron. I thought he did an excellent job. We really never really talked about him, which means that he actually stood up. If you recall back when we had Jalen Mayfield at that same position, we probably talked about him too many times. And honestly, when you talking about offensive line, offensive linemen, right? One of the things that you got to figure out is that if, as offensive linemen, you don't call their name, that means they're playing pretty good. So that's what I like about it. So um, both of those guys, in my opinion, Caleb McGarry and Drew Dalman need to have breakout seasons. They just really do. Right? If they do that, I'm not worried about Chris Lindstrom. I'm not worried about Matthew Bergeron. I'm not worried about Jake Matthews. So those two guys on the offensive front, in my opinion, need to have breakout seasons for these Atlanta Falcons to get to where they want to go. And remember, I started the show, where I want the Atlanta Falcons to go is to win that that NFC South and get into the playoffs. That's my goal. If they able to do that, I think it'll be really good for them. So let's see if they can actually do things like that. All right, let's go to the skill positions, right? And like I said, it was going to talk about some guys that's been here. Then we're going to talk about some guys that actually just got here. So one guy in particular, um, right now, guys coming in as our number 2 receiver, and Darnell Mooney. Right, I think Darnell Mooney needs to get back to form what he did in his first 2 seasons with the Chicago Bears. Right, where he was really the number 1 guy. He was a go-to guy there, and he had great numbers. You go back and look at his numbers that he had those first 2 seasons, twice the numbers he had the last 2 seasons, right? Um, and that's why the Atlanta Falcons went and got him, because they saw the potential there. A guy that's different than what than a guy what a Drake London is, right? Drake London, big body guy, going to make the tough contested catches. Not saying Darnell Mooney can do that, but Drake London, 6'5", big receiver, great strong hands. A guy that I believe the Atlanta Falcons this year is going to play him a little bit more in the slot, because being in the middle of the field, I think he really can dominate a game with his frame, his body style, his physicality that he utilized. So I believe Drake London is going to be more in the middle. You put Darnell Mooney on the outside, and if he can get back to form, some of the things that he was able to do in my first 2 seasons in Chicago, I think it's going to bode well for this team, right? You got to have that number 2 guy. Now, the Atlanta Falcons definitely go into the draft and pick another receiver, but they paid Darnell Mooney some number 2 contract, right? That's what they got. He was not paid as a number 1; he was paid as a number 2. But you bring in that guy, and you do some of the things he was able to do. Like I said, his first 2 seasons with the Chicago Bears, I think that's what we need from Darnell Mooney, right? We have a guy that be able to get him to rock. We know that that's not a concern at this point. A guy like Kirk Cousins going to be able to deliver the ball. They keep talking about elite processors, things like that. So I'm not really too much concerned about being able to get him to rock, but he needs to be able to create that separation that Raheem Morris was talking about earlier, in last week when he was at the owners meeting, right? Talking about Darnell Mooney is a different guy. He mentioned offense being on 3 different levels, right? The inside, the middle should be dominated by Kyle Pitts and Drake London, even though Drake and Kyle definitely can go along too. But those big body guys can definitely dominate the middle of the field. Guys like a Darnell Mooney can stretch the field and open up the underneath for our 2 mega pass catchers we got in Kyle Pitts and Drake London. So my third guy for us on this team for this Atlanta Falcon offense, to have one of these breakout seasons is Darnell Mooney. And the reason why I say that, because you look at his last 2 seasons, pedestrian numbers, I mean, not terrible, right? 300, 400-yard seasons, but I think he's a guy that can actually get at least 800 yards this season. He can average 60 or 70 receptions this season. So I can see Darnell Mooney being that guy for this Atlanta Falcon team. That's why, in my opinion, for Atlanta Falcons to be successful from an offensive standpoint, Darnell Mooney also has to be a breakout player, right? Going along that line, same can be said with Rondale Moore, right? A guy that we got, for trading our 3rd-round quarterback in Desmond Ridder. So he's on his 1-year contract. Breakout season for him for 2 reasons, right? Because it seemed like he has not been utilized the way that he wanted to be utilized his skill set. You saw what he was able to do when he was in college. Dynamic player, a guy that was really, really, really good of some of the things he can do in college. But he was not utilized like that with the Cardinals, right? So that's one of the things that we got to consider, and some of the things that we got to look at. But Rondale Moore, a guy that's definitely in his contract season, so he has a lot of stuff that he needs to play for. Got to be able to play for that contract that he's looking for, and if he could showcase some of the skill sets that he showed in college, Like we've seen glimpses in the NFL. I mean, a guy that can line up in the backfield, guy that you can use um, some gadget plays. Don't want to say that he's a gadget play guy that he can't be utilized in other ways, but what you want to see and hope that he can do some of the things, get him in space, right? A guy like him and a guy like Darnell Mooney, definitely those guys. You get those guys in space. So yes, guys, I'm talking about two guys that just came to this team. But if you look at some of the things that they did when they was in the college and what they did their first couple of seasons in the NFL, if they can replicate some of those things and bring it to the Atlanta Falcons with a decent guy is an excellent pass catcher, that's what we're looking for. So that's what we're hoping we see from this Atlanta Falcons team, right? That's what we're hoping to see. Um, I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking at the game, so I'm kind of a little distracted. Sorry about that, but you already tell this game is going to be really good. So, but I'm with you guys. Believe me, I'm right here with you guys. All right. So offensive player guys, I'm not going to talk about the other guys because we know what we expect from our horses, right? It's no other nothing need to be said about Kirk Cousins. We know what we expect from him. He needs to get it done. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Algier, those guys need to do their job. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, what we all expect them to do, um, then this season is going to be nothing anyway. So some of the things, those are some of the players that I won't even have to speak about because we know what we should get from those guys already all day. So that's what we know we need that needs to happen. We got to be able to get those guys to do the things they do, right? But if those guys that I talked about, the Caleb McGarry's, the Drew Dahlman, the Darnell Mooney, the Rondell Moore, those guys play had a breakout season that we want them to have. This Atlanta Falcons can be really, really explosive. One of the things that Raheem Morris talked about was building a whole new offense, right? That's what he mentioned. But at the same time, right, the pieces are already here. So build a new offense, but you already got all the all the pieces here to make the offense go the way it go, right? It's been held back. You got the all world tight end already. You got the number one receiver. You got the two horse backfield that you already have, right? You have the Sidney Collar finally was a lot of people said was the missing piece. So you have that, right? So you put all those things together, right? All you need now is those breakout players that I talked about. You need Caleb McGarry to be able to hold up on that right side to give Kirk Cousins time, right? Continue to run block like he do in a dominant fashion, but from a pass protection standpoint, be able to do that. You need Drew Dahlman to be the same way. You need him to be able to hold up pass protection right up the middle. Worst thing for a quarterback is that pressure right up the middle. You know, Kirk Cousins loves to step up in the pocket, so Drew Dahlman need to be able to hold fort right there in the middle. So those two guys, and then those two receivers that we just brought in are Darnell Mooney to get back to his first two seasons when he came in. Um, that's what we definitely need to see. And then Rondell Moore to be able to show some of this stuff why he was so electric and made him get drafted out of college. All right. Those are things we need to see from an offensive standpoint. Um, EQ said, yes, offense is looking great. D needs a few more players who will be our strong safety this year. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that's where we're going next. We're definitely going to the defense. And we're going to talk about some defensive breakout players for this Atlanta Falcons team this season, right? So first of all, right, just like on the offensive side, we won't talk about the obvious guys, right? We know guys that we expect to do what they do, right? The David Amayadas, the Grady Jarrett's, the Jesse Bates, the AJ Terrells, K Nellis, other two linebackers we got. We expect those guys to shine, right? That's what we expect. We expect all those guys to shine. 100%, no doubt about it. They need to step up and they need to do their thing, right? The problem where we're going to fall into is those holes that we got, where we got questions that, and if some of these guys actually able to step in and do their things, then we won't have to worry about it. And um, for an example, Zach Harrison, right? Um, we need Zach Harrison to play the way he played towards the end of the season, right? The last 3 games of the season that he played, where he started to flash some of that that uber talent, that skill set that he has. So Zach Harrison is another guy, able to move around, really showed a lot. Was able to get a couple of sacks toward the end of the season. So Zach Harrison, and we always talk about this. It's always the whole cliche going from year one to year two. But definitely a guy like Zach Harrison is what really somebody that really needs to do that, going from year one to year two. So we definitely need to see Zach Harrison do that, 100%, no doubt about it. Zach Harrison, if he's able to step up, it would be huge for this Atlanta Falcons team, right? Especially being able to add pieces in the draft. So if we be able to add um, pieces in the draft, but Zach Harrison have that jump that we expect him to have, that we hope that he has. Um, some of the things that he was able to do towards the end of the season, when he started to get a little bit more burn, that's what we need to see. So Zach Harrison will be my first guy, um, that hopefully that has that proverbial year one to year two jump. Right, that's what we need to see from a guy like Zach Harrison. Another guy that I definitely thought was gonna really break out last year. Maybe he got held back a little bit because the addition of David Amayada, but a guy like a guy like Taquan Graham. Taquan Graham um, was really solid 2 seasons ago. Last season, we did not call his name as much as we needed to. So he's definitely a guy, in my opinion, that we need to see step up a little bit more. A guy like a guy like Taquan Graham, right? That's big for our second rotation, right? We got Grady Jarrett, we got we got David Amayada, we got Zach Harrison, but on that back that second line of defense, guys that come in for the rotation, because David Amayada and Grady Jarrett can't play the whole game. So you brought back a Kentavious Street, but you bring back that you bring in Taquan Graham as well. Both of those guys could definitely be second um, place rotation guys. That's what we definitely need to see. So those are some of the guys that I'm talking about, um, on that defensive line. If Zach Harrison step up, Taquan Graham step up, that's what we need, guys. 100%, both of those guys. Let's go to the secondary, because I think this is one of the biggest issues on this defensive side of the ball that's really getting us, and this is where, in my opinion, where the Atlanta Falcons really need to focus. They're going to make some more moves in free agency, and also if they're going to do anything in the draft, right? Is in the secondary. Now, we definitely like what we've seen from Clark Phillips III. There's no doubt about it. Clark Phillips III was really electric, in spots, right? He had a lot of pass defense. For his stature, his size, he clearly played really good football, right? One thing that I think is going to work in Clark Phillips' favor this year is playing a little bit more zone. If you watch how he played in Utah, when he got all those interceptions, and what made everybody so high on him in college, right? Because he was a ball hawk, was he played a little bit more in zone, being able to read, you know, the quarterback, and being able to read the receiver, and and make plays, right? So I think playing the style of defense that the Atlanta Falcons might deploy this year, playing a little bit more zone defense, definitely going to help Clark Phillips. But Clark Phillips, he falls in the same line in my opinion, with a guy like Zach Harrison. That year one to year two jump, I really believe that he needs to step up. We still think the Atlanta Falcons going to probably draft the cornerback in this draft. We don't know where at in the draft. They could even draft one, and in at number 8. We just don't know. But if the Atlanta Falcons um, Even if the Atlanta Falcons do add, we want Clark Phillips to make that progression, guys. We want to see him have that jump from year to one to year two. Even if he even played in the slot, I know we have D Alford in there now, but if you want to put your best players out there, so going into training camp, going into mini camp, and if Clark is the best guy to put out there in the nickel in the slot, over D Alford, we might gonna see some things like that. So that's what we can see. So that's some of the things that we got. What's going on, Millie Mills? So in my opinion, Clark Phillips is another guy that we want to be able to break out. Now let's go to the safety position, and EQ just mentioned who's going to be our strong safety this year, um, and that's where I don't know if a guy like Richie Grant can have a breakout season. I thought last year was supposed to be his breakout season. You get an all-world safety, all-pro safety playing beside you, you know, to help you. And what happened with Richard Grant, he actually regressed, right? It seems like teams picked on Richard Grant last year. And if you look at PFF, it's no doubt about where they felt like Richard Grant he played last year for his safeties, right? Um, he was like graded one of the worst safeties in his league last year. And if you watch the film and watch what we've seen, um, every week, every Sunday, it seems that way. That's the reason why a guy like DeMarco Helms was able to jump over a guy like Richard Grant, and we saw the outcome of that. So that's what I mean when you're looking at this safety position. I think the Atlanta Falcons do need to make an upgrade here, unless unless they feel differently about a guy like DeMarco Helms. Now we know DeMarco Helms came in. He started some of the later games for this Atlanta Falcons team. A guy that made the team because of his spectacular play he had in the preseason, right? So if he can take, and guys, we're talking about young guys here, which just let you know the potential of this Atlanta Falcons team because we're talking about young guys just coming into their own, making that jump from year one to year two. So another guy, um, a guy like DeMarco Helms, if he could have that jump that we can see, you know, um, maybe the Atlanta Falcons have belief they don't need to go out and invest in that safety position, right? Because they got a guy like DeMarco Helms. We already know we got in Jesse Bates. So it's really no if ands or but about it, what we need to do there. Jesse Bates can do the things that we need to do. He can be the leader on that back end, but he be the road dog, right? That's why a lot of people is, thinking about Atlanta Falcons investing in a guy like Justin Simmons, right? Because could you imagine a Justin Simmons and a Jesse Bates on the same squad? I don't think the Atlanta Falcons want to do that, right? Because they want to go young, look like they're going to youth movement, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But that is one of the positions that definitely need to be looked at. If they cool with a guy like DeMarco Helms filling in, taking over that role, I wouldn't have any objections to that. But if they want to be on the safe side, I think they need to really invest in the safety, either in this draft or in free agency, just for insurance. Um, and because, like I said, guys, let's just be honest. Richie Grant did not play up to what we thought he was going to be able to do last season. So, and it's no way to other way to sugarcoat it. He got picked on, simply as that. I mean, go back to one game in particular, the Cardinals game. We had never heard of that tight end from the Arizona Cardinals. He had over 100 yards, and most of all those catches was on Richard Grant. Neither Mills said Troy must make a jump this year. Yep, that is true. Troy Anderson definitely need to. It's going to be interesting to see what role they have Troy Anderson in. One of the things that that gets me more than anything is the fact that we don't know about Troy Anderson. Um, not put Lamon back on the bench. I just I just don't see him putting Nate Landman back on the bench. I mean, the way he played, the things he was able to do, I just can't see them putting Nate Landman back on the bench. So definitely one of the guys that going to be curious where they're going to utilize him, his role, and how talented he is a guy like Troy Anderson. What they're going to do with Troy Anderson. So that's one of the things we definitely need to consider. But guys, from a defensive standpoint, those are the guys when I'm thinking about what I think they need to do, the things they need to do. Uh, and then last but not least, guys, we're going to talk about special teams breakout players. Special team breakout players. That's what we're talking about. And the reason I want to talk about this, and it's really simple for me, is because of the new hybrid kickoff rule, right? Um, and you go look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers was able to do. They went and got the all-time leader kickoff returner in Cordell Patterson, bringing him to the squad, right? So, think guys like that right there, bringing him to the squad. You see what they think about the special teams, right? And the Atlanta Falcons already invested in a guy like Ray McLeod, right? They went and invested in a guy who's definitely a a special teams return man and Ray McLeod. However, if you guys recall, we do have a special return man that was already on the squad who's returning back for injury this year, and that's Avery Williams. So if you're looking at the hybrid rule and you can have two returners back there returning the ball, right? I can imagine a guy like Ray McLeod and a guy like Ray McLeod and a guy like Avery Williams both back, right? And then however they do this, it's gonna be interesting to see how they start to do these special teams or these returns, do reverses, they try to do some trickery, whatever they're gonna do. One thing about this play, and if you guys recall that it has to be returned, right? So, it's not no fair catching and nothing like that. You once if it's kicked into that little zone between the 20 and the end zone, the ball has to be returned. So we're going to see more returns this year. It's no down in it at the 20 again a fair catch. Now if it get kicked out the in the end zone, yes, you still can down it. You can get like considered a touchback, right? And you can bring it out to the 30, right? That's the rule. Bring it out to the 30. But the whole idea with this was to actually create more returns. So these guys are going to be able to make returns and do those things. So that's one of the things you got to like to see. Um, Ray should feast on this new rule exactly. I can't imagine. And him and Avery Williams. And if you don't think Avery Williams is dynamic as well, go back and look at some of the things he was able to do in college. So I just like it. It's going to be interesting to see how they put Ray and Avery back there. I think it's going to really be exciting to see both of those guys do their thing with the special team. So for me, that's why I like this new rule because we're going to start to see returns, guys. And I believe that this play is going to start to factor in some importance in the game, right? Field position. You guys, if you watch me all last season, special teams was always my first key, right? Field position. You got to be able to have field position. That was one of the one of the main things. Be able to have field position. The other thing was to make sure that we get explosives, right? You will be able to create that with this play. And I think we have um, two dynamic guys and Ray McLeod and Avery Williams both to be able to do that. I can't wait to see how we get this first seed. If you guys watch the UFL, you watched it this weekend. If you watch it again this upcoming weekend, watch how it goes. And they got uber athletes there, but the NFL has even better athletes. So it's going to really be important to see how that works out. Jim Moran said, "What's going to come? I haven't heard anything about Grady Jarrett. He was injured last year, so he going to be better, or he just is going to take the paycheck." Well, if you go look at Grady Jarrett's media posts, social media, he's in the lab. Just go out there. He looked better than ever, man. He's gonna be ready. I can tell you that right now. Um, but if you just go look at his social media, Instagram, you'll see Grady is in the lab already. He's been back in the lab, um, and I anticipate Grady to be um, back on the field actually tomorrow because if you guys didn't know, the Atlanta Falcons actually be back on the field tomorrow as well. So um, because they got a new coach, they can start early, so they can start our season program tomorrow. Of course, it's mandatory. I mean, it's not mandatory, so they don't have to be out there. But we can start see guys back on the field. We might start to hear from guys as well. Um, Grady probably is on a program though where they're going to start him in slowly. But I can tell you on his own program, he's already back in the lab. He's probably already working, doing things. They probably have to slow Grady down because he's a workhorse. That's what he like to do. He's a workout warrior. He always in the gym. So they probably have to slow Grady Jarrett down. The same thing with Kirk Cousins. He's on schedule, but they don't want to ramp it up too. You got to follow the timelines. Everybody's on the plan. They got to be able to do the things they do. So those are some of the things we definitely going to see. But John, to your question, um, Grady should be on schedule, and I think he should be on schedule for training camp. So no worries there. I think he's going to be good to go. But guys, special teams, in my opinion, the breakout players for me is our two returners. Um, I I want to be I want to, I'm interested to see from the kickoff standpoint who they decide to put um you know there as a kickoff. Do they put bigger guys out there because they lined up 5 yards apart, or do they put fast, quick, small guys there? It's interesting to see what they decide to do. So they put big guys, or they put small, faster guys. That's going to be the question, right? Um, so we're going to be interested to see what they decide to do there on that. Because if I was on the kickoff coverage, I probably put all freaking fast guys down there to get down that field, right? Because you remember they can't leave their spot until the ball is either caught or it is hit the ground, right? So you got to be able to get down the field quick and do what you're supposed to do. So those are some of the things that I think they got to do. Definitely, 100%. Um, I just this season is gonna be weird. Now it's just for one season. They didn't make a permanent change for this rule, but I think this hybrid rule is gonna make it more exciting. I think every play now, after a score, people can't get up and go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom and think there's going to be a touchback, right? No, it's going to be a return, right? And it could change the momentum of a game quickly, really quickly, if they with this play, because most of the time, this play is going to be returned. Um, it'd be interesting what coaches decide to do when they kick into dynamic returners, right? Because sometimes, what coaches say, just kick it out of the end zone, right? We don't want him to return the ball because he's too explosive, right? Now, if you do that, you might get penalized for it. So that's one of the things you got to think about. All right, all right, all right, all right. So guys, those are my breakout players. I'm definitely interested to see who you guys think should be some breakout players for this Atlanta Falcons team. Um, but if we go back, we go real recap because that's what I like to do. Um, from an offensive standpoint, we're going to recap. We're talking about Caleb McGarry. We're talking about Drew Dahlman, and we're talking about our two receivers that we just brought in, and Darnell Mooney and Rondell Moore. Right, all four of those guys, if they have the breakout seasons that hopefully they have, we already know our mainstay is going to do what they do, but that's going to just make our offense even better if those guys can do what they need to do. All right. From a defensive standpoint, Zach Harrison going from year one to year two. Clark Phillip going from year one to year two. DeMarco Hellams going from year one to year two. Um, we had somebody mention Troy Anderson, right? Going from year two to year three, coming back from an injury. How more dynamic can he be? Right. Taquan Graham is the last guy that I want to talk about. If he can have a breakout season, I expected more from him than we saw last year. I understand his role might diminish because of David Amanyata came in, but when he comes in on that second wave of defensive lineman, he got to be able to produce. So that's what I want to see from our defensive players. And then of course, last but not least, our special teams, our two returners, Avery Williams, Ray McLeod. Those guys can just do what they always did in the return game, punt return, kickoff return with this new hybrid kickoff rule that they got in place. I think it's really, really going to be dynamic for this Atlanta Falcons team. Um, those are my breakout players, guys, for this 2024 season. We don't know who we're going to get in the draft, the feel of some of them holes. Are these guys going to actually even be as utilized as we talking about right now? Because they are the guys on the roster right now. But are the Atlanta Falcons going to add any more free agents? We don't know yet, right? They were able to clear up some more cap space. They readjusted Taylor Heineke's um, salary cap number. It was at 9, now it's at 4.5. So looking at the over the cap, carding over the cap now, the Atlanta Falcons have 6,300,000 in the bank. So they a little bit back where they need to be above the cap right there. But if they want to add some more cap, we already know how they can do that. They're not cap strapped where they can't add players that they need to add. Of course, we know they got to be able to sign their draft class as well. So Atlanta Falcons definitely still make some more moves. I still I'm still waiting, anticipating on the AJ Terrell extension. It's into me. I think it's any day now. I think it's going to happen before the draft. We just got to be waiting on that to see what that number is going to be. But I do anticipate AJ Terrell being here for a Falcon for a while. So look out for his extension, and that will free up more cap space as well, guys. That's where we're at. Those are my breakout players. Definitely want to hear from you. Let me know some guys that I might have left off that you think need to have big, years. Don't give me any top 10 picks like Kyle, Drake, and Bijan. We already know they got to have big years, guys. That goes without saying. But um, but I'm talking about guys that need to fill the holes that we have. John said, "Can you explain the rule about the tackle? You talking about the drop hip tackle?" So yes, good question. Um, they banned the drop hip tackle. Um, for an example, if you go look at 2 years ago, Patrick Mahomes, right, his Super Bowl run that he had when he sprained his ankle, that was a drop hip tackle. That's how he actually got his ankle rolled over on that play. Last season, um, Andrews, the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, I'm back. Oh, I don't know why I left off, guys. Sorry about that. But like I said, the drop hit tackle was being banded. But if you go look at what happened to Andrews from the Baltimore Ravens, you can look at what happened to Patrick Holmes. There's a couple more plays out there that you can look at and see what happened. Actually, I think Tony Pollard as well from the Dallas Cowboys drop hit tackle. So all those plays, um, you know, whereas because the defender was putting his weight down and pulling the guy down and then rolling over on his pretty much his ankle, his knees, and things like that. Um, we already talked about this. I don't know how they want defenders to get guys down from behind. Maybe just jump on them. I don't know, but trip them up or something like that. I don't know how they expect them to get guys down, but this tackle has been banned, and that's the way it's going to be. Um, it's all about safety, right? They're talking about safety. That's why they put the hybrid kickoff rule in. But they also want points, right? So most of the rules that they have put in place, it actually benefits the offense more than the defense. Um, but it is what it is. But if you look at the play, it is a dangerous play. People have been getting hurt from it. The numbers show that, and that's why they banned it. So that's just how it goes, guys. This sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. All right. Guys, I want to thank you guys for coming in today. Like I said, it's getting close to draft season. A lot of downtime between now and the draft. A lot of people doing mock drafts. Everybody trying to figure out what the Atlanta Falcons going to do. Keep in mind, and I know a lot of people always look at their first pick or first night on the 25th, right, and think that makes the Atlanta Falcons draft. But in the end, it's just one draft. The Atlanta Falcons got several more picks after that. So when you're thinking about the number one draft pick, in this round, yes, it's a big pick for us because you want that guy to be a player that contribute right away because he's the number 8th overall pick. But you want to look at the draft in its entirety to make sure the Atlanta Falcons fill some of these needs and holes that we got to have. So, and you got to look at their strategy, who they're attracting and things like that, because that's going to really be important as well. So that's some of the things that we definitely got to look at from Atlanta Falcons standpoint, that draft. So get ready for that. I'm still going to do my draft series talking about the linebackers. I have not talked about them yet. Definitely want to talk about those guys. But just stand by, guys. I'll be back on Wednesday, another live. Don't know what I'm gonna talk about yet because it's getting downtime. Maybe we have some news. We don't know. We'll just see. Maybe we have some more news out there about what's going on with Atlanta Falcons. But other than that, please go out. Give me your thoughts on the breakout players. Also, um, I really haven't did this in a while. I had used to do it like actually a couple years ago. But if you got any questions out there, we could talk about. You got any ideas about draft and things like that? We'll put them up here. We'll put your topic up here, and we'll talk about that. So, um, like I said, again, towards this downtime, and we want to be able to still have some talk Falcons football. I want to hear from you guys. Give me your input and things like that. So, guys, that's all I have. Thank you guys for tuning in today to the show. Um, give me your input on your breakout, guys, if you have anybody different than I have. And if not, that's all I have. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.